Welcome to the BDO Debt Solutions Podcast. I'm Tara Bellio, and in this episode, we pose the question, what if parents can't help their children pay for university? Believe it or not, universities and colleges are back in session in just a few weeks. Where did the summer go? It feels like it just started. Did you know that over 2 million students will be enrolled in universities and colleges across the country? And that means there are a lot of Canadian parents, along with their university-bound sons and daughters, who are excited, hopeful, and a little nervous right now. Unfortunately, many of them are also worried about the thousands of dollars they'll need to borrow to get a higher education. The reality is that grads end up dealing with the financial and emotional stress of debt long after graduation. Our 2017 poll found that 77% of grads have regrets about their student debt years after they leave school. And it's natural for parents to want to help. In a 2017 Maclean survey, 19% of students revealed their parents were paying for most of their university expenses, and almost 13% said parents paid for about half. But what happens when parents can't or shouldn't contribute to their child's university education? And how do parents know when to say no? We asked our LITs and debt help professionals to weigh in and offer their advice to this particular group of parents. In this episode, we have Paul Nietiak from our Hamilton office, Beth Ann Bone from our Oshawa office, Doug Jones from our Barrie office, and Nancy Snedden from our St. John's office. Paul, we talk a lot about the burden of student debt on the current generation of university students and grads. It's natural for a parent to want to shoulder some of that burden for their kids, but when should parents say no to paying all or part of their child's university tuition?
As a parent, this is an interesting question. Just recently, my son graduated grade 8. Seeing him walk on stage and receive his diploma is one of the proudest moments of my life. There was 105 students graduating that day, and I can bet you I was not the only one feeling that way. 105 families full of pride. So it is understandable that as parents, we want what's best for our children, and we want to support them as they pursue their dreams and goals. However, parents shouldn't endanger their own financial well-being in order to financially assist their children. Now, what we mean about this is, you should not be avoiding paying off your debt. You should not be avoiding accomplishing your own milestones and goals, such as retiring. In September 2017, the Financial Planning Standards Council had a survey. 45% Canadians, parents postpone retirement to help their kids with tuition. 42% delay paying off their debts. What this is telling us is that Canadians are experiencing a financial hurdle when it comes to their children's post-secondary education. Planning for assisting your children should be part of your regular financial plan. Parents with younger kids, now is the time to take a look at your financial plan. Start that RESP. Start a savings plan for college. But now is the time to really consider what you want to do. Parents with older children, now's the time to take a look at your financial plan. Now's the time to do the necessary tweakings if you want to assist your children. How we do this? Well, first of all, we need to understand and determine our own priorities. Paying off a mortgage or consumer debt before retirement, having enough savings for comfortable retirement, being able to afford healthcare in later years. At this time, you're going to be able to see what your future outlook in your retirement is going to be. Now you can decide, how are you going to spend on your children? How much are you going to provide them in assistance if you can afford to give your university-bound child any support? Also, look at your budget. You can find savings in your budget that will help you financially. Cutting back on some of your vacations, maybe some of your dining out, maybe taking a look at your cable packages, your internet packages as well. See where you can get some savings as well. It's also important that the children be involved in this process as well. By making your children's education part of your financial plan, by making it part of your budget planning, you're also teaching your children. After all, children teach from their parents. By helping your children teach them money management at this early age, it's going to help them in the future and hopefully help them when they come to the similar planning with your grandchildren.
Beth Ann, can you offer some advice for parents? Like, how can they support their university-bound son or daughter when they can't offer financial assistance?
The support that we provide to our kids is not just financial. There are many things that can be done to assist them through the university years. Parents should make sure to keep the lines of communication open. Be transparent and honest about the inability to contribute financially to the cost of university. You can help with research and applying for available loans and grants through the provincial and federal government. Help with the actual application for student loans, and do your own research to have a good understanding when looking for different types of government and private student loans. When looking for locations, local can be a wonderful option. Offer to let your kids live at home while they're attending university. This can cut back on expenses in a significant way. If your child is going to be going away for university, make sure to stay connected. Help them with the transition from home to university, and always check in to ensure that things are going well. When it comes to advice and guidance, this is a priceless contribution. Encourage your kids to work part-time during the school year, but ensure that they understand to watch for any negative impact on their studies. Share the money lessons that you have learned during your own years of independence. Also, allow your kids to learn as many real-life money lessons as possible. You can offer advice, but don't be too quick to bail them out. Remember, there's a fine line between helping and enabling.
Doug, both the government and private lending process can be confusing, especially for new university students. And not all students are eligible or want to apply for government student loans. So what should parents know about the student lines of credit and bank loans?
This is a great question, as we meet with students and their parents who have outstanding student lines of credit and entered into them without a full understanding of the product. A student line of credit is a lending facility provided by a financial institution that has a preset spending limit. The student is able to borrow against the line of credit as funds are needed. Interest is only payable on the amount that has been borrowed, and the student can repay funds at any time and then borrow again as the need arises. In contrast, a bank loan is for a fixed amount, and the student is provided with the full amount of the loan upon approval, and interest is payable on the full amount from the day it is advanced. Due to the differences between the two financing options, the student line of credit can result in reduced borrowing costs if not all funds are required immediately, and the student can offset some of the borrowing costs through repayments by summer employment or part-time employment while still in school. In looking at the option of a student line of credit or a non-government student loan, there are a few factors that parents and students need to consider. The first issue is that student lines of credit usually require a co-signer, such as a parent. The co-signer will be liable for the repayment of the line of credit if the student is unable to make the payments. Next, unlike government student loans, interest accrues and is payable from the first advances of funds under a line of credit. As a result, the student needs to realize they will be required to make interest payments while still in school. Students also need to be aware that certain government grants are only available to students who have government student loans, and this needs to be considered in looking at the various funding options for post-secondary education. And the final issue is that upon graduation, students will be expected to commence repaying the principal balance of their outstanding student line of credit or non-government student loan, and the repayment assistance plans offered by the government student loan program will not be available.
Nancy, what else can parents do to ensure their child is financially ready for university?
It's always a big step for kids to go to university, whether they're going to be still living at home or moving into a residence or, even moving out of province to go to school somewhere else. And there's many things that parents need to make sure their child is prepared for, regardless of what that is. So oftentimes in orientation, for example, they walk into a university and the first thing that they see, or one of the first things they see, is a booth or two offering them a credit card. You want to make sure that your child understands what credit is, how to use it effectively, what an interest rate is, the fact that if they don't clear their balance each month, it's going to cost them more, those types of things. They should know how to budget and how to stick to it, because they're going to have additional expenses that maybe are going to be their responsibility now that you may have been covering for them in the past. Many students rely on student loans to pay their tuition. Sometimes they have part-time jobs, sometimes they don't. So if they don't, they're going to need to know that the money from that student loan is going to need to last them for a period of time. Or if you're going to supplement them, how much you're going to supplement them so that they know the budget that they're working with. So really important to sit down and have these financial discussions with your kid before they set off to university.
Thanks to our LITs and debt help professionals Paul, Beth Ann, Doug, and Nancy for their advice, suggestions, and tips. And thank you for listening to this episode of our BDO Debt Solutions podcast. If you know someone who's sending their son or daughter off to university this September, we encourage you to share this podcast with them. And in our next episode, we'll dig a little deeper into the real cost of being a grandparent and how grandparents are offering their time and money to their kids and grandkids. For more podcasts and videos, check out our YouTube channel, BDO Debt Solutions Canada. Until next time, I'm Tara Bellio, reminding you that it is possible to leave debt behind.